Arman Tsarukyan and Mateusz Damrot share a similar sentiment on the next step for the winner of their 5-round clash later today. By the time you watch this video, maybe they've already fought, but you already know it's going to be a good fight. We have two of the young rising stars in this UFC lightweight division that are almost undefeated with like 18, 20 wins, only 1 or 2 losses, and they both share the same sentiment in that they want a top 5 guy next. Doesn't matter who wins on Saturday night. I think the winner deserves a top 5 fight next, says Damrot. Then we have another quote. After this fight, I should be in the top 5. Probably number 6, number 5. You guys got to help me after this fight. Talk about me a lot, said Tsarukyan. I beat Joel Alvarez, but my rank didn't even go very high. But I thought like Alvarez, he's a good fighter. I beat him very easily. I dominated him. I thought I'd get like number 7, number 6. I hope after this fight, I get a top 5 fight, because Damrot, he's a good fighter. I'll stop him and I'll get a top 5, added Tsarukyan. After this fight, I want to be a contender and I want to get fights with the top 5 guys in the UFC lightweight division. Now, this is interesting. This is interesting because I agree. I would have to say these guys are top 5 level. Both Mateusz Damrot and Arman Tsarukyan, they could easily be in the top 5 discussion and beat the guys in the top 5 of the UFC lightweight division. But is the UFC going to do it? Are the opponents in the top 5 going to accept the fight? I don't know. Because you think about the guys that are already in the top 5. Oliveira, he's probably going to fight for a title against Makhachev. So that already rules them out of the table. You got Dustin Poirier, who's either looking to move over to welterweight or he's looking to fight Justin Gaethje, get him back on for a shot at the title yet again. So that automatically rules out number 4, number 3, number 2, and number 1. Michael Chandler is looking for money fights, looking to build his name back up in this UFC lightweight division. Guess who he's trying to fight? He's trying to fight none other than freaking Conor McGregor right now, and maybe even fight someone in the welterweight division either. So that already rules out the entire top 5 of the UFC lightweight division for Arman Tsarukyan or Mateusz Damrot, whoever wins the fight. Now, you got Rafael dos Anjos, Rafael Vaziev. They're already fighting. We're going to rule those guys out. Tony Ferguson is looking like he's probably going to get a money fight next or go a little bit further down the rankings. I'm sure Arman and Damrot don't want to get number 9 after this win. Rules them out as well. That leaves them with one more option as the winner of this fight. Only one. And that fight for Arman Tsarukyan or for Mateusz Damrot is none other than Beneil Dariush. That is it. That's all there is for Arman Tsarukyan and Mateusz Damrot. It is only Beneil Dariush. That's it. Beneil Dariush just beat Tony Ferguson. He was supposed to fight Islam Makhachev, but the fight got canceled. He got injured. He's not able to fight. So what does that do? What does the UFC look at that and they're like, all right, well, we're going to put Islam and Oliveira for the title. We got all these other things happening with the top 5. Beneil's not going to get a top 5 fight as of right now. And what's the only real choice? The UFC doesn't really want to build Beneil Dariush as a prospect, build him and make Beneil Dariush a champion. They're going to give him the winner of Arman Tsarukyan, Mateusz Damrot. So what they're saying here in this article, I hope after this fight, I got to be in top 5. They're not going to get into the top 5. Their ranking is not going to say they're number 5, they're number 6, nothing like that. But I assure you, more likely than not, the winner of this fight with Arman Tsarukyan and Mateusz Damrot is going to get Beneil Dariush. That's the only logical step. We just went over the entire top 5. We went over Dos Anjos, Conor McGregor, Ferguson, Fiziev, all of these guys. They already have fights, and if they win, they're going to move up the rankings, or it's freaking McGregor, he's not going to take the fight, and then it's Ferguson who's not going to take the fight. So the only fight that makes sense here is, like someone just commented, the gatekeeper, Beneil Dariush. I don't like to say that about Beneil because he's a legit fighter, but he's not a guy I can really see beating the top echelon of the lightweight division or being the guy that's going to necessarily dominate the younger class like Arman and Mateusz Damrot. It seems like a perfect fight to me because Beneil has only really been fighting the sort of veteran guys. I mean, Scott Holtzman, Diego Ferreira, and Tony Ferguson. That's it. That's all you're really beating recently. I don't necessarily think that's going to be enough for you to get a title shot, enough for you to get up there in the rankings, so it only makes sense. Beneil Dariush versus the winner of Arman Tsarukyan and Mateusz Gamrot is the only thing that makes sense in this UFC lightweight division. But put your thoughts down below. Is that the fight that needs to be made next? Or do you think we should get some crazy fight like Arman versus Michael Chandler, Arman versus McGregor? I mean, what are your thoughts on this lightweight situation between the two guys that are about to fight in the main event in, 4 hours? Probably a little bit longer than that, but still. What are your thoughts on the main event? Gamrot versus Tsarukyan. Who should both guys fight next? Nate versus Umar Nurmagomedov. You heard that right. Umar Nurmagomedov, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Usman Nurmagomedov, all of these great Nurmagomedov undefeated fighters had these odds going crazy. If you're here before the fights, yeah, Umar is a freaking minus 1250 favorite. He's a bigger favorite than like Amanda Nunes was against Juliana Pena, than Ronda Rousey was against Holly Holm. He's that big of a favorite, and like Nate Maness is saying, is because of the Nurmagomedov name. We all know the Nurmagomedov name is going to do a lot in terms of betting odds. Like, just because a lot of people saw Umar's name right there, they skewed the odds from minus 500, and they just kept on betting Umar, parlaying him up, propping him up, putting money line bets on Umar, blowing up his odds largely because of the last name. Does he deserve to be a minus 1250 favorite? I'm probably going to venture to say nah. Nate Maness has power. He's a good chance of going out there and knocking out Umar Nurmagomedov. Do I think Umar's going to win? Yes. But like Nate Maness is saying, this is a little iffy, man. 1250 betting odds because his last name has Nurmagomedov, which is interesting. Never in a million years would I have Umar Nurmagomedov as a 12.5 to 1 favorite. Maybe 6 to 1, maybe like a 80%, 90% chance of winning, something like that. But to have him as like 95% chance of winning or something like that, and have him as a 1250 or 12.5 to 1 favorite, oh my gosh, that is insane. And if you're watching after this fight has happened, maybe Umar Nurmagomedov went out there and he showed those odds are legit. They should have been 1250. All right, cool. But should they really be? Nah. I mean, it's really, I agree. Nate Maness, it should probably be a little bit less on those betting odds. But the Nurmagomedov name is a very powerful thing in MMA. We've seen Khabib dominate in the UFC. We've seen him just absolutely smash his opposition in the UFC octagon. They're thinking, oh, Umar Nurmagomedov, a young bantamweight, young, smaller version of Khabib, has got to go out there and dominate. So they just keep on betting him. But yeah, again, if you're here after this fight is over, did Nate Maness just freaking upset the world and prove that the Nurmagomedov name has way too much bias, and Nate Maness went out there and got the victory? What happened? Tell me, because I don't know if you're watching this after. That's crazy. That is crazy. If Nate Maness wins, it's going to be insane, and that just further proves do not bet fighters just because of their name. If you see Umar Nurmagomedov, if you see any name that's kind of mixed up with another famous fighter's name, another dominant UFC fighter's name, don't bet them just because of the name. You got to start watching the film because minus 1250 is disrespectful for Nate Maness right there. But put your thoughts down below for this UFC bantamweight fight. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Let's go. Ciryl Gane explains benefit of of his break since his loss to Francis Ngannou. Now, we already know it's been a while since Ciryl Gane has fought. I mean, his next fight is scheduled against Tai Tuivasa at UFC France. It's going to be a good fight in his home country against the number 3 heavyweight in the world, going to secure his spot at the top of the division. But his last fight was January 22nd. It's been about half of a year since his last fight, and he's just now getting the talks about fighting Tai Tuivasa. It's been a while since Ciryl Gane has previously entered the cage, and that last time that Ciryl Gane entered the cage, he lost. He went out there, looked very good early on, and looked dominant. He was out striking. Francis Ngannou, looking amazing on the feet, and then boom. Francis using his size, using his strength to out-muscle and out-strength Ciryl Gane in those later rounds to barely win that very close heavyweight title fight. And since then, Ciryl Gane hasn't really been in the news too much. I mean, he hasn't really been talking. I haven't seen too many interviews with Ciryl Gane. Haven't really seen too much happen. And neither guy's really had too much news about them. I mean, we've heard about Ngnnou versus like Stipe trilogy, Ngnnou versus John Jones, whatever the case may be, but Ngannou's injured. Ciryl Gane just hasn't really been talking to the news or anything very, very much recently. So I don't know what's happening here. But we have Gane showing some growth. He shows how his mindset towards Ngannou rematch has changed. After he lost to Ngannou, he changed his mindset a little bit. And he's really, really hoping that Ngannou will re-sign with the UFC so he can avenge the loss. Every great UFC fighter, you can't say every, you got Khabib Nurmagomedov, but most UFC fighters have this moment where they barely lose a fight. They get knocked out. They get a close decision loss, and they finally lose for the first ever time. Whether it's in just a random UFC fight, whether it's for the belt, like it was for Ciryl Gane, there's always going to be that moment. But it's good to see that Ciryl Gane, even though he lost, even though it was such a close one, a very, very tough pill to swallow, losing that narrowly for the UFC heavyweight championship of the world, it's good to see Ciryl Gane is still out there saying, I can still go out and beat Francis Ngannou. I want Ngannou to re-sign to the UFC. I want to fight him again. I want to beat him in the rematch. I want to do a trilogy with Ngannou. It's good to see that because he's a young fighter. Sometimes these young fighters, they lose, and then they can never get back up to the peak they were before they had ever lost the fight. They just lose their motivation after losing. But this is a good starting point for Ciryl Gane because he lost and his motivation grew. He's getting stronger. He's getting better as a fighter. He's more motivated to take out Francis Ngannou in a rematch, which is all very good. So what do you guys think about this in the heavyweight division? Do you think Ciryl Gane can finally get back his only loss in the UFC octagon and in MMA in general and come back and beat Francis Ngannou in the UFC heavyweight division? Put your thoughts down below in the comments section.